Hey,
Mike from
everybody.
Maine? Is that you,
Yes,
Mike from Maine?
this is me.
Ah,
Technology is working again. I
yeah.
am Mike from Maine, Junk Wax Hero. This is John Keating, the Joe DiMaggio to my Dom. Thanks for joining me, John.
Well, we both have the same middle name, if that's the case, because the DiMaggios named all their kids Paul as their middle name.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's this week's episode. Uh, glad you're here, Mike. Glad we made it together Sunday night for us, but it's going to be mid to late week for everybody else.
That's right. And
Um,
hopefully,
go
what,
ahead.
what I always worry about filming or recording these early in the week for a Thursday release is that some sort of big announcement is going to come out and make our episode obsolete. And in today's case, you got
Huh.
Beckett. We're talking Beckett. What if they announce some mind blowing thing that we look back on and go, that just blew our episode out of the water?
That's why we say we're doing this on Sunday. So if they announce something on Wednesday, they will know that we're ahead of them. And hopefully
Very
they will
smart.
listen to us because we have, or at least I have some stuff to talk about um, this week. Uh, you are part of a generation, Mike, that um, runs the hobby at this point. You guys, I think, are the biggest demo, people that grew up wrapped around the 80s and the 90s. I
Yeah,
think
that
you
sounds right.
guys are. I think you guys have the steering wheel right now, which is your turn, and that's a good thing, right? So your people all grew up, I believe, with a monthly Beckett magazine, either running to a store or having it delivered. Is that accurate to say?
100%. The best day of the week was the Beckett day, the best day of the week once a month, of course. And I subscribe to Beckett baseball and Beckett basketball. And so I just remember getting off the bus, grabbing that Beckett and reading it immediately. It was the best. And it drove my hobby, it drove my
Right.
collecting.
Right. Yeah, I guess it made you feel like you're part of a bigger community, right? Which is one of the fringe benefits of that whole magazine, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like a water cooler thing. I had some, not very many friends, but I had, that sounded bad, not very many friends who collected.
Right. There's only 50 people or so up in Maine, so I get it.
It's true.
Yeah.
But those couple of friends that collected, we would talk about, did you read this article in Beckett? Of course, we're reading it for the articles, as they say, right? Did you see the latest price on the 52 mantle? Things like that, or the 86 Donruss Jose Canseco.
Right. Right. So I've several times over the last 6 months, I've written emails to Beckett employee number one, only to erase them time and time again. Kind of frustrated. Now I don't owe a lot of my I don't owe a lot of my collecting to Beckett Monthly. As we talked about, you and I'm more of a again. This is the third time I'm going to use this week. I'm part of that last generation that collected vintage in real time. So I was more affected in 1979 by the guide that came out. That opened my eyes. And that was a yearly guide. So imagine being that jazzed about something that came out once a year. But it's a true story. But I'm still influenced by the name and the brand that Beckett created, and a little frustrated with the way things are going. I don't owe them anything; they don't owe me anything. But I am a customer of theirs. Do you partake in any of the Beckett many tentacles of the Beckett media empire by any chance?
Not exactly. I've never gotten a card graded by Beckett, and I don't own a single Beckett slab.
Okay.
I don't use Beckett Marketplace because it's unwieldy and confusing.
Right.
I am waiting for my invitation to Beckett Collect beta. I have tried Beckett Organize, and I think Beckett Organize is really good, but I fear that they are going to absorb Beckett Organize into Beckett Collect, and it's just going to become another Market Movers that is overpriced.
Right.
I think Beckett Organize is a great tool for collecting and um, kind of tracking your collection in a sea of bad options, especially for autograph collectors like myself.
So what would make them any better than the other ones? Um, why is their rowboat any better than anybody else's rowboat trying to cross the ocean?
Yeah. So what makes them better right now is that it's more customizable. You can add tags and things like that, and it's much, much cheaper than the other options. The other options, like most of them start at $15 a month and they go up from there. I don't remember. I don't actually subscribe to Beckett Collect because I ended up just going with a spreadsheet,
Right.
which is free and it fit exactly what I needed. But I think Beckett Organized was $7 a month, if I remember correctly. And I feel like if you look at and I don't strike you as a guy who goes to the gym probably, but I used to work at a gym 20 years ago, and the Planet Fitness disrupted the gym industry. $10 a month flat monthly fee, where everybody else was charging $50 a month for gyms.
Planet Fitness open 24 hours.
Yep, exactly. And I think that there's an opportunity for Beckett to do something like that with a big price guide, collection tracker that is significantly cheaper, and you can get a lot more people on that don't even notice the charge on their credit card. And that was the strategy for the gym that I worked at.
Right. So I subscribe to Beckett OPG. I subscribe to, I guess I'm a master subscriber, and I get all the sports. Essentially, I get everything on there, I guess. So my collection's in there. It's not to track the value per se, but it's how I use the organizer, all that fun stuff. So the problem I have is Beckett has reinvented itself as a grading company, and that's their prime focus. Everything revolves around grading. And as we know, Beckett essentially was on PTO the entire pandemic, right? And I don't know what it was like before the pandemic for them, but they certainly went away during the pandemic and made no effort during the pandemic, is what the perception is.
Well, I think they made some effort. It was just bad effort.
Misguided.
Yeah.
So,
and it was very little.
Yeah. So where they are now, I think I don't follow the gem rate stuff that much. You're more in tune with that. Danny Black is probably throwing stuff at his monitor backstage right now, but they appear to be around fourth place right now, I guess. And I feel like you have a company here, Beckett, that it feels entitled to be number one or number two, and has done nothing to deserve that in recent times. Right, their last few grading related big announcements have been faux pas. Right, the changing of their flip, and then whatever happened this year that I don't care about.
Yeah, they certainly have the name recognition, the name brand recognition to be at least number two.
Right. But now they have the reputation. They've earned a recent reputation to be nowhere in the top three, and deservedly so. So I think they need to reinvent themselves all across the board. Now, if you go to their website, where I go, it's inundated with little things to click. Like, why do I need a drop-down menu with dozens and dozens of sub drop-down menus for coins? Okay,
Yep.
I'm a card collector. I find it hard to believe that they have not segmented coins and cards at this point. There's all sorts of other drop-down menus, and the website it's just plain wacky. There's a link to the podcast, and the last podcast episode was 5 months ago. Last YouTube video was a year ago, all that fun stuff. So I think they've pretty much given up on their online presence other than grading, or attempted to give up on everything but grading. Does that sound like a company that is headed in the right direction to you?
No, and even with an outdated website, and their website is very big and confusing and difficult to navigate. That even says, if I go there, why would I grade with them?
Right.
And I'm on Facebook sometimes, and I see ads for Beckett that pop up in my newsfeed.
Mm-hmm.
And the thumbnails for the videos that they choose are very, very strange. Like, there's no way I'm going to watch a video with the thumbnail that they choose for it. It's bizarre.
Right. It's not enticing, right? It's not inviting
Yeah.
you to click anything or explore further.
Yeah. So, and the comments in their Facebook, so they need to really do a little moderation of their comments, because it's just, when am I going to get my cards back? When am I going to get my cards back? Dozens of those comments, and that's it.
Right, right. So I think they've lost the battle. I think they've lost the grading battle. That doesn't mean they can't have their place there, because there are people that say I've never subbed to them. I do have a couple Beckett things back there, but they've lost that battle. They need to get over that. They need to find their groove again. And I think a lot of that revolves around the Beckett Online Price Guide, where people can get everything they need from that price guide. The infrastructure's there. There's a gajillion lines of code in there, but it needs to be tweaked to make it a little bit better. But all the stuff's there. They don't monkey around with prices that much. They should do that more. With all the data that's out there, they can certainly bring that stuff up to speed quicker. But I had kind of a radical idea that people have proposed in the past, and I don't know whether you're ready for it or not, or whether you want to continue on with the appetizers. What do you think?
Let's do it.
So midweek, I bombarded you with a long text message, and I did that all with my thumbs, not my fingers. I did it on my iPhone, and
Congrats.
I feel like thanks, man. I feel like that now's the time for Beckett to kind of stick their sword in the ground and make a universal set registry for graded cards. Maybe it's an ego thing, but if anybody else can scrape data like GemRate and whomever else, the data's out there apparently. Why can't Beckett? Now you can go on Beckett OPG and designate who has graded your cards. There's a column for that and all that stuff, right? So I'm not sure. It's not as big a step as it would be for somebody starting from scratch to start a universal set registry on Beckett. And I think that's where they need to focus. Something that's been talked about a lot by hardcore collectors, but nobody wants to get it off the ground. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the universal set registry idea. I'm familiar with GemRate. I know how they work. They scrape data from PSA and Beckett and SGC and CGC, whatever else, CSG, and they take a snapshot every day. And so then they know what has changed in the registry or in the pop count for each of those. Now, I don't know if cert number is available in the scrape that they do. And I think the cert number is a key piece, and PSA will be extraordinarily protective of that, of anybody trying to use a set registry or create a universal set registry, because it is their differentiator. It's why people pay extra for their product. And I don't think if Beckett were to come along and say, we're going to start scraping all your data and create a universal set registry, I think PSA would have a lot to say about that.
Do they have a leg to stand on? Neither of us have finished law school yet, but do they have a leg to stand on when that information is available to other people?
Yeah, they can shut down their API access or whatever it is that GemRate is doing. But
that sounds to me like it's a viable threat then. So why not try that if you're Beckett? It sounds like if that hurts that much for them to want to do that, why not try it?
Yeah, I agree. You could try that. You could preemptively go to PSA and say, we'd like to do this and we'll pay you 1/3 of the revenue we pull in. I don't know.
Yeah, well, how do you differentiate what that revenue is, though? You're talking about overall revenue?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting.
So you charge a monthly fee for your universal set registry or
oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, you have one company doing the heavy lifting, and then you can pay royalties, right? That happens all the time. And maybe that entices some of the other companies to get involved, right? If there's some sort of monetary gain. And people are still, it's not a matter of taking away grading. That isn't the reason for a set registry, is to take away a market share from PSA. It is to drive traffic to Beckett or Beckett OPG or whatever, and increase their revenue and other avenues. like you said, the marketplace sucks. I don't know why there's a marketplace on there. It's a waste of space, a waste of bandwidth for them, and a waste of energy, time, and all that fun stuff. And I'm sure most of the people that sell on there would probably agree, because I don't know anybody who says, I look at my latest mail day from Beckett Marketplace. So they
Yeah,
need,
I've never heard anybody buy anything from there.
yeah. I looked for a card the other day, a common card, not a common, but a common card. And no, there's none on there over the, hundreds or thousands of people they have selling stuff on there. I think though that, they need to get back to their roots. They're irrelevant. And I think that, man, maybe I'm wrong with folks like you, but I feel like people want to see those arrows and all that fun stuff. You make you got to take it on the chin for a little while, make it less bulky, and make it a little less expensive. But if you drive traffic to your site, then again you can monetize uh, by way of volume instead of a select few geezers like myself who are on Beckett OPG all day long. So, but the information is there. They have the ability to say this card. I'm looking right now at my cards. It's either a raw card or SGC or PSA or whatever. It's there. It needs to be. They need to capitalize on the ability and the infrastructure they have, and they need to point. They
Yeah,
keep. I think they keep screwing up. They keep throwing worm burners to their tight ends. They need to throw long. So
yeah.
uh,
I think to your point about the universal set registry, they could do the same thing that they have right now, and instead of asking you to type in the cert number, if it's a PSA card, you just choose PSA, and we're just assuming for a moment that PSA has shut them down from accessing cert numbers. And then you could just put in, I have this PSA card. But that also, one of the biggest benefits of the PSA set registry is that it knows automatically. You put in the cert or you scan the
right.
barcode, and it knows what the card is, and it can bring up images if it's new enough. But yeah, I think you could do it without PSA's cooperation.
Or you could do it, and it can be hidden to the public. Not that it matters, but people. One of the things people get a little, well, that same card just sold, last month for $1,500 less or $1,500 more. You can hide the actual cert number. It can be confirmed as a legit cert,
Mm,
and then not open to other eyes on the registry, just
that's a
open
good
to your
point.
own inventory.
Yeah.
But it's legit and all that stuff. But I think that one of the problems is you're still going to have your hardcore SGC folks or your hardcore PSA folks. I get that, but uh, there's too many options right now. There's no I have to grade with PSA or I have to grade. It's condition sensitive, meaning it depends on what you're trying to do. If you have a modern card and you want to flip it, you go to PSA. If you have maybe a vintage card that's going to stay in your collection, maybe you go to SGC. So there's too many conditions right now on how and where we grade. Maybe a universal set registry. All the information's right in front of me. I'm looking right at it. Maybe you make that happen, and it drives more traffic to all the collecting or all the grading companies, perhaps.
Yep.
Um, and it drives people back to Beckett, right? And you can see your collection every day. TCDB has a pretty hardcore following. Um, Beckett offers trading, but I've never made a trade. And I think since 2011, I've gotten maybe one trade offer because I stopped putting cards for trade on there. I just gave up on all that stuff. So TCDB, people love TCDB because they can track their collections, not necessarily money, but track, inventory of their collection and all that stuff. So I think collectors like yourself would probably like that. They'd like to go to one place and do that. And have a universal set registry. Like it's time for Beckett to wake up. They've been making a lot of bad decisions, but they've just been going with the flow. So
Yeah.
I think that needs to happen. Website, like you said, it's a complete mess. Coins, everything's on there. Matchmaker, I don't know why. There's a matchmaker conferences, all that stuff. I don't get there is a There is kind of like a magazine on there and stuff like that, or news, but I never get that news anywhere else. I think does you say that pops up in some of your ads, or it looks like kind of like a Hobby News Daily thing and stuff like that pops up, but I don't see it on
It's
any of the social medias.
it's Beckett grading, and I suspect Facebook has me in their ad preferences. They know that I'm into sports cards, and so it feeds me Beckett ads, even though I don't like Beckett on Facebook. It gives me Beckett ads. I think back a couple of years ago, I think McDonald's got a new CEO or something like that, and he came in, or she, I don't remember, and said the menu is out of control. There were way too many items on the menu, and they stripped down like 60% of the menu to the basics, to the things that were really popular and things they did really well. And their revenue shot up because it was easier for people to order and they could focus on the things that they were good at. I think Beckett needs to do that too. To your point, uh, do they need to revamp their grading, or do they need to focus on basics with grading, and invest in customer service, and invest in turnaround time, and turn around that grading while also investing in the OPG and create some sort of a market movers and other competitor?
Yeah, I think they're too busy either chasing past glory, recent past glory, or trying to replicate what other people are doing. I don't know what Beckett Collect is, truth be told, but if it sounds like it's just like all the others, then what sets it apart? Then that's not innovation. The company needs to innovate and zag while everybody else is zigging. Um, you know, PSA gets away with what PSA gets away with because their market share dwarfs everybody else's, right? Morton's can charge you $129 for a porterhouse steak. Texas Roadhouse can't. There's a difference, right? And you have to, as they say, stay in your lane. But Beckett needs to find a way to get out of the hole they're in. That doesn't mean, look, I know they've turned over CEOs twice in the last year and a half or so, but obviously that was another misfire. I think it's in hobby hands, and as we can see throughout our hobby, uh, these companies are better off in the hands of hobbyists or people that are lifelong hobby industrialists. So misfire after misfire. Um, I don't know what their future holds, but I think now's the time for them to that. The only way you're going to gain ground is by doing something different. Um, they're not going to set themselves apart by having a vault, which they have, by buying a distributor, which is dubious at this point. Who knows if the distribution game is okay, right? And doing nothing grading on the grading front from that's setting them apart.
Yeah, it sounds to me, based on these products that I didn't even know existed at Beckett that you're listing off, sounds to me like they're trying to be collectors universe instead of trying to be PSA. They
Right.
have a lot of those side products that are great when you're dominating, like PSA is,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a parent company that can bring on the marketplace and the vault and all these other side products that complement your grading service. But I don't think Beckett is there anymore, if they ever were, to be able to support. I mean, how do you support all those side products that I've never heard of anybody using before?
Right. Well, what they say in football, if you have three quarterbacks, you got none. Right.
Right.
So you have to have one direction um, that you're going in, and it seems like they're being pulled in all different directions, and a little bit of having a hard time concentrating and focusing. Like you're right, McDonald's and any business course will tell you fewer SKUs works.
Yep.
Right, the more SKUs you have, the more problems you have. Some people can do that, but Beckett apparently can't. And these other companies are slowly adding pieces. Beckett just seems to have everything right now, but none of them are really standing out. I don't know anything about their revenue, but obviously grading must be driving it. But there's so many opportunities there. And I'm sorry, I'm looking off screen. I just keep looking at the Beckett website and shaking my head inside.
SGC has very intentionally focused exclusively on grading,
Mhm.
largely on vintage for a long time, but then in the last, I don't know, 6 to 12 months or so, started focusing on doing some modern as well. And I suspect as they gain more market share, they will add in a set registry. Maybe they'll bring back autograph authentication, which they
Right.
eliminated, I don't even know how many years ago now, but smartly eliminating products that weren't working out so they could focus on their core offering.
Right. Yeah, that gentleman down there has done a wonderful job. Obviously, it's amazing. Do what you know. That doesn't mean you have to sell one flavor of ice cream, but maybe you cut down on the amount of ways to deliver it, the cups, the cones, the dishes, all that stuff. We've been to ice cream stores where they have dozens of different varieties of waffle cones with peanuts, M&Ms, Rice Krispies, all that stuff. They just need to focus. I think that they need to do something radical. Right now, they're still trying to play catch up, and catch up is not working. I don't think they have the infrastructure to do that. They have the technical infrastructure. I see it. I see it every day. It just needs to be tweaked, and it needs to be pointed in the right direction. Um, I don't know. Maybe this is only something I care about, but one of the hardest things in any business is acquiring a trusted brand name. And obviously, Beckett's brand name was trusted for many decades, and now their biggest asset just keeps taking punches, keeps taking hits to the chin.
Yeah, they've squandered it a little bit.
A little bit.
They've squandered it a lot. I
Okay.
think, especially with the younger people, the
Uh-huh.
older people like you and like me will always think of Beckett in a positive way because of the decades and decades of performance, the strong performance under Dr. James Beckett. But the younger people are like, what is this company doing? What are they good at?
Right.
They're not familiar with the history.
Right. Yeah. Or I don't expect the younger generation to keep track of their collection the way maybe you did or I did, but there's an opportunity to introduce uh, some of these collectors to that way of collecting or tracking your collection or whatever. A universal set registry kind of appeals to many people in many different generations, which is what they need to. That's what they need to figure out. They need to pick that lock.
Yeah.
You can never be everything to everybody, but you can definitely have mass appeal and cross generational um, appeal if you do it right. Um, so I think that that's my take on that. I know they're in hobby hands at this point. It's a shame that they had kind of a wasted year. This is an industry and a hobby unlike any other, and I can't imagine the folks at Harvard Business School saying and trying to explain how things are done because this business, I'll call it, which is the hobby and the industry, is strictly driven by the secondary market, which is extremely tough to penetrate from a corporate end because all of us amateurs kind of hold the cards there, literally. But we hold the cards, right? And you can't just learn this in business school because the most profitable people in this business are dealers, most likely working a side hustle or even doing it, even doing it for a living. So it's tough not to crack. You need to be complementary to that ecosystem, the secondary market.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's funny because in my lifetime, obviously, uh, the manufacturers have a lot more influence now than when I grew up. Tops just happened to make cards, then Fleer made cards, and Donruss. Nobody held those guys in very high esteem. But now there's obviously a bigger influence from Panini and Tops than there ever was. But with that said, it's still driven by the secondary market. So I could not imagine being a CEO, especially an outsider like Beckett had just had, and try to figure out this this. I wonder what that pitch sounds like when you're at the board and you're going to tell him how you're going to turn it around, and then he gets in the door and sees all us mooks, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's that. You're tired. I'm tired. Anything else we need to beat with a dead horse?
I don't think so. I am very curious to hear everybody else's comments. What did they think Beckett should do? What ideas resonated with them? What ideas did we have that were terrible? Probably all mine.
Right. Do you think
Let
they
us know
should
in comment.
buy? Do you think they should buy a manufacturer, Beckett? I think that would be suicide, right?
A manufacturer for what?
Of sporting cards. There's a few of them out there. There's at least 3 of them in the Dallas area, I think.
I think that would be the worst thing they could do right now.
Right. I just imagine. I'm sorry to interrupt you there with the closing remarks,
okay.
but I can just
We're good.
imagine somebody reacting to what what Fanatics just did with their big bucket of cash, saying, "Oh, we need to do something like that. We need to buy somebody like that, an auction house or this or that." That would be my biggest fear for Beckett, if somebody within those offices are saying we need to make a move like that. It's just going to muddy the waters even further if they think they're going to fight their way out of it. Just a bigger bag to try to fight their way out of.
Yeah, when they're struggling with their core business and secondary business, tertiary business,
yeah,
adding in card manufacturing, make it worse.
You know what Albert Einstein once said?
What's that?
The definition of insanity.
Yeah, doing the same thing
over and over again. So hopefully we don't see that. Hopefully they turn it around, but hopefully they do it they're going to have to do it in a different way. I think they're going to have to take a different avenue. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the hobby needs Beckett.
Right, it's a good point. And we need to say goodbye. What Mike was saying before I interrupted him was that leave your comments. Let us know how wrong Mike is, how wrong I am, or perhaps one of us actually hit on something. So appreciate everybody watching, listening, all that fun stuff. Anything else, Mike?
That's it. Thanks, John.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you guys and gals on down the road.
Bye, everybody.